Stunning. Well, that is awesome. I'm very happy to have you here. I just also wanted to let you know that my primary function is to help you. I really want to help you. So if you need help, okay, I just want to let you know that I'm recording. Okay, if you need help, my job is to help you. I don't want to see any students excuse me, walk away feeling like they didn't get value from the course and that they didn't succeed because they didn't connect as they should have, because I will bend over backwards to help you, do what you need to do in order to be able to grasp the content. But I love the fact that you have real world experience, which will add to this conversation, and I think it's going to make for very interesting assignments that you submit.
Yeah,
which is going to be great. So Nthabi Singh, what we're going to do conversational. So you're welcome to interrupt me at any time. I was with the full-time students earlier on who are just sort of 4 years out of school, and they were mostly quite quiet. But I think the reason for that is because also load shedding and sort of in and out of connectivity and that kind of thing. Not because they're so, but this is really up to you how you want to do things. It would be great if we can interact and you can respond, but do whatever makes you feel comfortable. The most important thing is getting through the information, as regards the assignment. Okay, so this is obviously lesson 1. So welcome. May this be a fabulously rewarding year for you as you prepare to finish your degree. So I've asked you to introduce yourself. I know your name. Are you originally from Joburg? You're based in Joburg, but are you originally from Joburg?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, which part of Joburg? Tembisa, Kwatema, or Sandton, or wherever?
No. I was raised in Soweto, but then for the past 10 plus years, I've been in Midrand, but originally from Soweto.
Stunning. Which part of Soweto?
Meadowlands.
Oh, cool, awesome. Okay, now you're in which part of Midrand now?
Midrand, I am in Kyalami.
Stunning, awesome. Okay, so you've done the whole Joburg thing. Well, that's great. Awesome, fabulous, wonderful to have you, and I'm looking forward to helping you. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so your plans. You told me about transfer BA. Okay, so here comes the horrible stuff. Here's the warning. Okay, so I think because you're mature and because you are already working, this doesn't apply as much to you. So plagiarism is a very, very, very big no-no at 4th year level, as you know. And I love to check sources. So, when you do your assignments, you need to please make sure that it really and truly is your work and not somebody else's. Because usually, you can pick that kind of thing up. The other thing I was going to say to you is, remember, Nthabi Singh, because it's a 4-year degree, okay, this is NQF 8. So it really is the equivalent of an honors. So I'm pegging the expectations at the same level as honors, so in terms of what I'm wanting from you, for your assignments. Now, don't let that freak you out. At the end of the day, because you're working, the only reason why I want to do that is simply to help you have a really good grasp of the information, to make it relevant to you in your workplace, and then also to give you, a competitive edge over the other graduates that you're that you are competing with in the workforce. So that's really what it's about, just to be able to, that you can say, listen, I know the stuff because we've gone through it and, I've really made it my own. So that really is what it's about. But just remember, the penalty for plagiarism in 4th year is 100%. So you get 0 for your assessment if it's found that you plagiarized. And remember, because you have 4 assessments for the year, it's 3 formative assessments of 20% each, which are all assignments, and then 1 summative assessment, which is 40%. Okay, if you fail 1 assignment with 0, it could actually make you fail the year. So just, I am dying to give people excuse me, I'm dying to give people distinctions. Now, getting a distinction with me is tough because I have very high standards. But if you do the work, I remember there was a young lady I was at Vega previously, and her name was Nandile Mlambo. Stunning woman.
Yeah.
And she took everything, because they were doing honors, because there was only a 3-year degree. She took everything that I said to her and she put it into her honors mini dissertation, and she produced the most brilliant piece of work. It was so good, and I was very happy to give her a distinction and say to her, Nan, you deserved it, well done to you, and go and just blaze a trail. And she has, she's done very well. So So really and truly, that is at the end of the day, my goal with you. I really want you to, be thrilled and happy and excited to have done this degree, because it's such an achievement to get a degree and a diploma. I mean, any form of tertiary qualification, diploma, degree, certificate, they're all such a huge blessing and such a gift. So I really want you to get the maximum benefit from that. Okay, so on that note, please feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions or any concerns. Okay, and now also just to let you know, if for whatever reason my connection drops off, I will try and log back on. So it's not that I've stopped lecturing, it's just that there is some connectivity issue, and then we just need to work around that. So, but that's, yeah, I know, and I'm expecting you to obviously drop off at 8 o'clock. So we'll have to stop at 8 o'clock and see if nobody else joins us. Okay, so let's get going with session 1. So in the beginning, let's be journalists. You as an editor, you will know this and you can relate. So we're doing the what, the when, the where, the why, sorry, the who, the why, and the how. Okay, so in order to know the present and the future, we need to know the past, because as George Santayana, the Spanish-American philosopher, said, those who can't remember the past are condemned to repeat it. It was attributed to Winston Churchill as well, but it was George Santayana who said it first. Okay, so we're going to do investigative journalism into what exactly is integrated media management and how it relates. Okay, so integrated media management, as you can see, is the integration or coming together of media. Now that sounds obvious, but it's not that obvious. It is a managed process. In other words, that is why you're getting a bachelor's degree in business administration, because you're doing management. Okay, and Philip Kotler, who's arguably the father of marketing studies, says that the reason why we integrate, both in terms of marketing, communications, and media, which we're going to discuss just now, is because we want to create consistent, clear, and therefore compelling communications. Because as I was saying to students in the previous class, there was a lady who delivered a lecture at one of the graduations I was at. I think it might have been a Boston graduation when I was lecturing previously. And she said she worked for a company. She worked at Standard Bank. And she said they did a case study on a bank in South America. On Friday afternoon, when the bank closed, because they closed the weekend and said, guys, we're not trading this weekend, sorry, we're going to be okay. They were Bank A. When they woke up on Monday morning, they were Bank B. They had changed everything. Logos, look and feel, uniforms, new advertising campaign, everything was completely changed. That is the ideal way to do these things. You would know, since you're in industry, that's the ideal way to do things. You don't want to do a phased thing like when Pick n Pay redid their logo. Some stores have new logo, some stores have old logo. It just looked so tacky. It really, you've got to do it all together at once. And that's a tall order, but you have to really try. So that's important in terms of your assignment. Okay, so when? So first of all, we looked at the what. Let's look at the when. When did integrated media management take place? Well, marketing as a science emerged in the 1950s. You might say, Rob, this is not a marketing class. And I would say, au contraire, mon cher savant, which is on the contrary, my dear scholar, think of marketing as the umbrella under which media falls. Okay, so if you're involved in media management, okay, somewhere along the line, there's going to be some connection to marketing. It may be an oblique connection, but there is, some sort of connection. So you say you're an editor and you edit, it's for a company that's based in London. And what do they do? Do they create content? Are they an online magazine or newspaper, or what do they do?
Yeah, so we do create content that focuses on women from the continent and women from the continent in the diaspora. Yeah.
Stunning. And where do you create the content, and then do you put it onto your own media, or do you sell it to other media groups, or how is it disseminated? How do you?
Yeah, so we've got our own website that we are growing, and so we get content from different places and contributors and journalists that we put on our site. Yeah.
Stunning. Okay, and so you edit, do you curate the content and then say, okay, guys, fix this up, change a little bit, and then do you send the content off to London to be uploaded, or how does it work?
So we will, as the editorial team,
yes,
we'll sit down and discuss some of the themes. So we normally we pick monthly themes. So for example, February, Black History Month. So we'll try and come up with ideas around that, or maybe just come up with the theme of love, since there's also Valentine's Day. So each month will have its own theme, and then there'll also like be different days that are commemorated that we also, you know, spotlight. And then so we said we'll come up with a brief that we all agree on and are happy with, and then we'll send this to the writers, different writers all over the continent, and they will then pitch in the different ideas that they may want to, you know, write about. And then from there we select the ones that we want to commission that we feel will be great on the site, and then they write. So we select the ones that we want to commission, they write, and then submit them. And then my job is to edit and then upload it onto our website.
Stunning. Okay, and then do you do this because you're wanting to a consciousness among the diaspora and amongst people from Africa, or you're doing this to do that as well? And then do you make revenue from advertising that is also on the thing, or do people subscribe? How do you monetize the
So there are different, there are different ways of making money. So through advertising, through events, partnering with different brands as well, and sort of having them sponsor some of the content that we create that will probably be centered around their brands. So our main purpose is to basically get stories that are not so much in the mainstream out there, because we feel that there aren't a lot of great stories that are from the continent that are known by the rest of the world.
Okay, very interesting. And then do you do you specifically look for brands that will share your vision, or do you just throw it open and just advertise space? And if whomever wants to advertise on your website, it's fine. Or do you specifically look for brands that sort of gel with your target market and gel with the message and the idea that you're trying to bring across, your narrative?
Yeah, so the brands definitely have to align. And if there is a collaboration of sorts, it also has to align. So, I mean, any brand can advertise with us, but the message that we do send across, if it's a collaboration, needs to resonate with what we stand for ultimately.
Okay. Stunning. Well, it sounds. Are you happy? Are you enjoying your job?
A lot, yes. It's a lot of work because it is a startup. But there's a lot of growth, there's a lot of experience, a lot of new things. It's great.
And ultimately, you see yourself actually running your own sort of creative content agency, where you're creating content for companies like the company that you work for, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Okay, stunning. Well, that is awesome. That really helps to paint a picture. I'll try and give you examples, and if there's something you want to jump in and chime in and add, that is relevant, please feel free. Okay, so marketing is the umbrella under which media falls. Okay, there's no clear date when IMM began, although we can trace it back to probably late 80s, early 90s, but the digital age has accelerated it massively, which we're going to be looking at some of those details tonight. Okay, so where did integrated media management take place? Well, it usually starts off with the Americans in most cases, and then usually goes to Europe, and then moves from there to the rest of the world, usually Asia, and then it sort of comes down to what we can discuss later, the global South. Not always, but it is. And obviously, here we look at the diffusion of innovations. So if you look at, uptake of new media, uptake of things, whatever innovations, disruptive innovations, you'll start with, the very few, the huddled few, the mass, and then before you move on to the masses. So you'll start with your innovators, then your early adopters, then you'll get your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. But generally speaking, it moves through the scope of how people adopt things. And today we focus a lot on technology, but it can be on anything. It could be on an idea. The idea of something like to take it social, Black Lives Matter. How do you take an idea like that and pull it through so that it becomes the consciousness of the majority of people, not just the minority of people? So any of those things, and so integrated media management and integrated marketing communications started off as a fringe thing and has now become almost essential. Are you familiar with the diffusion of innovations?
No, no.
Okay? It's not that important for the assignment. Otherwise, I would have explained it in more detail. But just to let you know, so let's rewind it, but I don't want to focus too much on this because we don't have a lot of time. When tablets first became a technology in 2010, you would get the very cool few who, almost the people who created the technology, who would use it. Okay, then it became the early adopters. So you get people who were brand influencers or who would hang out with the innovators and the inventors who would then start to use the technology. Then it would be pushed through media and through marketing into the early majority. So that's when up to half the population. So you get this bell curve where people then start to, you can see this massive uptake of the technology, when everybody then starts to see the benefit of a smartphone or a tablet. They're like, oh, I want one of those. And then you see this huge number of people get it. And then you get the late majority, which is almost the other half of the population, which then says, oh, I think I also better get one because actually, everybody else has got one, so maybe I should jump on board, or actually I see the benefit of it now and I use it. And then you get the laggard to the people who don't use it at all, or they're not interested, or whatever it is, and sometimes, not always, sometimes it can be linked to age when it comes to technology. So as I was saying to other students, my mom, my sister does her emails for her. Neither of them, and my sister is young still, but she doesn't need to use WhatsApp. She doesn't have any friends, so she doesn't use WhatsApp. She can, but she doesn't. And my mom doesn't use Instagram or TikTok or any of those things. She's a complete, digital novice, if you will, or, digital, cave person. And my mom is a smart lady, but she's just not, into these things. So she's not one who's taken up the technology quickly, and she doesn't need to, because, my sister helps her where she needs to. And if she ever did, then she would learn. Excuse me. But so the thing is, this can help you if you are seeing. So, for example, in your case, I don't want to get too technical again as well, but where you're trying to create a narrative about content from the continent. I was just saying to the students in the previous class, Africa is still, this perception that it is the dark continent, the Me Too continent, in a different way to the Me Too movement, we can speak about later. The also ran continent, the whatever it is, the poor continent. And yet, by 2100, the two largest cities in the world will probably be Lagos with 80 million people and Kinshasa with 75 million people. So the future of the world will probably be African, because also if you look at the population is very skewed in favor of the youth. So they have the mental capacity and the agility and the physical capacity to be able to produce labor that is needed to move the world forward. So it's very much, it depends. And I think you speak, and also about women. I was shocked, just with again, not to digress too much. I had a look at what excuse me, sorry, the top earning male actors in the world earn versus the top earning female actors. And female actors, it literally is less than half, even today. Literally is less than half. And it is just, in this day and age, you would think, oh my goodness, but it still happens, so it's important. This is not that important in terms of where did it take place, but the context in which it's taking place is very important to overall strategic communication, which we're going to come back to. Just also to let you know, IMM is about holistic thinking, and holism as a concept actually first came out of South Africa in the 30s and 40s, ironically. So, that there's many things, as I said to other students, that South Africa has contributed to the world. But let's have a look, for example, at Elon Musk, who's a South African, or ex-South African at least, okay, with something like Tesla. Tesla's not had a very big market uptake in South Africa because we just don't have the capacity for electric cars. But that kind of forward thinking and driverless cars, that stuff which is now at the beginning. People, it's not well known on the roads, it's not popular, it's at the beginning of the innovation curve. People are just starting to get ideas, but it hasn't become mainstream yet. We're not, so that is, and how is media like that, and how does media tie into that. Okay, moving along. Okay, so who is affected by integrated media management? You are the leader, but you are now also just the steward, the ambassador, the champion, the influencer. So we're going to speak about this, and I say it is important for the assignment. We're going to speak about this a little bit more, you know, in the next hour and 20 minutes before you have to go. How the focus has shifted from you as the creator to you as the curator. Okay. Okay, so everyone is affected by integrated media management. There's a guy who wrote a book by the name of Scott Bedbury. It was actually 20 years ago already. And he said the branding is the good, the bad, and the ugly. But you know, I said, but Rob, this is not a branding class. And I would say, of course it is, darlings. It is a branding class because everything is about the brand. Okay, so in your case, let's have a look. You're talking about Africa as a brand. You're talking about Black women as a brand. You're talking, and if you had to take that down to a personal brand level, although they're not African or they're African American, but there's Michelle Obama, there is, you know, Oprah, there is, you know, Winnie Mandela, there is Grassa Michelle, you know, so those are things. So it all of that is affected by, I mean, if the Netflix series, The First Lady is to Be Believed, they actually went to Michelle Obama and said, listen, you are media gold. Your husband needs you to win this thing. You got to stand up there and you got to say your piece, because when you do, they are going to eat you up and they are therefore going to elect him. You know, and I don't know how true that is. Maybe there is some truth to it, you know, but the thing is, it certainly makes a lot of sense, you know, from that perspective. So what I'm trying to get across to you is that, and you already know this, so this is not difficult for you, everything is connected to everything else. Okay, so IMM is still happening as we speak. We're going to watch a quick video on branding now. I just want to let you know that when I did this with the other students, the video seemed to lag and it created connectivity problems. I hope it's not going to do that here, but let's just quickly see. If it does, we'll just have to catch our breath afterwards. Okay, let's see how it goes. Thank you so much, Ntabi Singh.
All right.
I hope you'll find this useful. Let me see if I can get it to work. Why is it not working? There. Okay, it's not working either. Okay, yeah. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. Yeah.
Great. Okay, cool. Okay, now it doesn't want to play ball. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, branding. Where'd my YouTube go? There we go. Okay, it seems to be taking forever. We might not be able to watch those, but anyway, you can see there's a link there. It's a quick video. Let me see if it loads up in the intro. Let me carry on lecturing for the sake of time. Okay, so these are also concepts. There we go. Let's see. Maybe it's loaded up now. Has it? Okay. It's very slow. Let's see if it's going to work. Can you hear me okay still?
Yeah, I can still hear you fine.
Okay, cool. Let's see if this is going to work. Okay, are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, so could you see that and hear it okay?
Yes. It was a bit,
Cool.
it lagged a bit, but I managed to see everything.
It was a bit what, sorry?
It lagged a bit.
I did it. Okay.
Yeah, but I saw everything.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's probably, with connectivity and with, you know what it's like. Anyway, so okay, so again, the point that I'm trying to make is that branding is the core focus of what we do. It is the glue that holds all marketing together, which includes media. So, at the end of the day, that is what is important, and we're going to discuss it. So just to also let you know, we're going to go through, excuse me, the assignment, the first assignment next week.
Okay.
But one of the questions is on the ANC. So what I'm saying to people is the ANC's market share has fallen from an all-time high of 70% in 2004 to an all-time low of 48% in 2021. The ANC has now hired you to go and fix that problem. So you are the media manager. Put together a campaign that speaks to, how you're going to fix that. So, and there you need to see the ANC as a brand, and with so many disparate different target markets, from, a Generation Z, a digital nomad who is living on TikTok, to a 75-year-old gogo who doesn't even know what the internet is and doesn't want to vote for them or anybody else because she has lost faith in them. But she won't go and vote for somebody else. So she's not brand loyal, but she's just, in the absence of better choices, she just won't cast her vote. You know what I mean? So yeah. So that's something to consider. So the problem is, as you can see, and this ties in very nicely, the problem is media fragmentation. Back in the 50s, where you had a TV station, a radio station, and a newspaper, and you placed 3 adverts in those, okay, you would be able to cover 100% of the market. Your market, reach would be 100%. You could even just do TV and you'd probably be covered, if you did a big TV promotion. These days, it's media fragmentation, as I said to the students in the previous class. It's like taking a big mirror and throwing it on the floor and smashing into a million little pieces, and your medium only covers one little piece of the 1,000 pieces that have been smashed into. So there's a disintermediation of media. We can no longer afford to spray and pray. So in the old days, you'd spray, think of it like a wall, you'd spray it with a spray gun of paint, and then pray that the message would reach some people and that they would then go and buy your product or your service or your idea. And back then it did work because there weren't so many media options, and because we weren't so, fragmented in terms of time, because we have so many options. So why did integrated media management happen? Because of media disintermediation, because of media fragmentation, the need to not just put one advert, on one TV channel. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can't tell you the last time I watched SABC 1, 2, 3. I don't watch, digital terrestrial TV anymore. I watch only stuff on, digital stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know what messages are being conveyed by, your Unilever brands and your, whatever. So are you the same? I'm sure you are.
Yeah, no, I haven't watched SABC in a very long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you still listen to a normal radio station on your way to work in the car, or do you work from home?
I do work from home, but when I drop the kids off at school, when I'm going somewhere, I try to listen to radio just to, stay in the loop about what's going on.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you do still listen to, but not as much as you used to. Possibly.
No. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay. So how did this all come about? How did integrated media management happen? So in the words of Yoda, if you are a Star Wars fan, to history return you shall. So let's have a look at a basic communications model. You have the sender. Also, very interestingly, what I said to the other students is Coca-Cola as a brand, and it's the same age as Johannesburg, 1886.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
that old, eh? And it is now worth billions and billions of dollars. And you might say, as Steve Jobs said to the guy from Pepsi who he hired, with the marketing manager, he said, do you really want to, market sugary water for the rest of your life? It may be sugary water, but it's a very powerful sugary water, So let's say you're Coca-Cola, or let's use you as an example. Okay, so you are, creating content for the African diaspora and for Okay, so you are the sender, you're creating this content. Your message is, what's happening in terms of, reinvesting skills back in Africa, or sending, cash home to people in Africa, or upskilling people who are here. Okay, your medium in this case could be, your website, or, if people use your content elsewhere. Now, what would the noise or distortion in the channel be? We're going to come back to that. Let me let you answer the question. That obviously passes on to your receiver, which is your diaspora. Then they will give you feedback, which will go through its own medium, which will have its own noise, back to the sender. And that is, which we'll come back to, is the difference between 1950s marketing, where it was spray and pray, one-way messages from sender to receiver, versus 2020s marketing and communications and media messages, where there will always be feedback. We expect feedback. We encourage feedback in these. So, okay, so that is, where we're sitting. Okay, so how did this happen again? Carrying on with the how. Okay, so let me ask you the question. What is the first set of noise in the channel or medium from sender to receiver? What noise do you experience in your channel?
Sure. Okay, let me just give it a go. So I think the noise would be maybe other media platforms, or even social media, where we try to promote the content that we've published on the site.
You're 100% right. So there is lots and lots of competition for top of mind awareness, for salience. Correct. Good. Okay. What is the second set of noise in the channel or medium from receiver back to sender? What would you say?
Maybe the types of channels available to send that message back.
Absolutely, very good point. Yes, also the type channels, they're limited, and then it's not also necessarily always paid attention to by the brand. So people are wanting to communicate. What they've got to do is they've got to go onto Hello Peter and give you a 1-star rating, because they can't get you to give them any feedback, and they can't get you to respond to them and answer their problem, So, okay, so let's branch out on that. What are some of the ways the message can get distorted? So language could be a language barrier. If I watch a video in Russian or Chinese, I don't understand it. I can pick some things up if I can see some nonverbal cues, like her face, or hear her tone of voice, or whatever it is. I can pick up when she sounds angry or excited or sad or whatever, but I won't necessarily know what she's saying. Okay, so then you have culture, perception, values. Okay, those are all linked to each other. So, for example, as I was saying to students earlier on, if you are from the conservative Christian right in the United States, so you from the South, the American South, and you don't believe in, gay marriage, or you don't believe in abortion, and it's not necessarily because you're from the South, it's because you're conservative and you have Christian values, and you believe that it's a sin or whatever it is. How do you then accept and absorb a message from Joe Biden, who's saying we're going to codify the respective marriage acts, so that all people have the right to get married? And you might say, well, that doesn't fly with my value system. Or, I believe that conception is the time at which life begins. So the minute you conceive, anything then, if you then had to abort the baby, would be against the will of God, would be a sin. And then you might say, then there are people who come along and say, yes, but what about the mother's right to choose? It's the right to choose. And think about, how unhappy the mother's going to be if she has to raise a child that she doesn't want, or even worse, she brings the child to term and then dumps it on the police's doorstep with a bag of, milk, and says, here, world, here's a child, and moves on. What are the consequences, for the child of that kind of thing? And so you can say, that those are sort of cultures and perceptions and values that can distort the message. If you see a message that you don't believe in, you're going to ignore the message anyway. So that can also be, a noise in the channel. Now you might say, well, Rob, why is this relevant to what we're studying, to integrated media management? Because one of your jobs as the media manager would be to overcome those those potential sets of noise and distortion in the channel. How do you promote maybe there are people that you want to speak to in the UK, okay, who say, I don't care about Africa anymore. I've left it. I may happen to be from Africa. I may happen to be, but I don't care about Africa anymore. It's my past. I want to focus on Europe. How do you convince that person to say, but hang on, what about all the things that you can still do even though you're there? I saw a very interesting article yesterday on Air India that have just spent 80 billion rand to buy 500 new planes, just under 500 new planes from Boeing and Airbus, because of the huge Indian diaspora that lives in the United States and in Europe and in other parts like Singapore, etc., and how they're wanting to take on excuse me, the Middle Eastern carriers. So you can see over there, how do you connect with those people? Are you with me? Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions at the moment. I'm still with you.
Okay, cool. Great. Okay, great. So how did this happen? Let's have a look at some more history. All right. So in the past, and this is sort of late 80s, early 90s, now we can look at an archaic model of marketing, which is the 4 Ps, which is product, price, place, promotion. And many people will tell you, well, you can't really say that marketing is those 4 Ps. It's not. It's way bigger than that. But it provides a nice framework from which to work. I still use it. I don't believe in the 4P model, but I like it as a framework from which to work. To help you establish. So if you look at the P's on the left-hand side, product, price, place, promotion, those are all sender. If you look at the C's on the right-hand side, those are all receiver. So what we're trying to say is that the media landscape and the marketing landscape in which media functions has now moved from sender to receiver. So you have to keep that in mind and this is all going to become relevant in a while as we start looking at examples. Okay, but in the past, there was very much a focus on products. It's rumored that back in the 20s, Henry Ford said, you can have the Model T, which is like the first mass-produced car. You can have the Model T Ford in any color you like, as long as it's black. Okay, you can't do that in this day and age. If somebody comes to you and says to you, I want a Model T Ford, but I want it blinged out to the max. I want it to be like Lizzo, it's got to be pink with purple polka dots, and it's got to have flowers and little, monshishis, all of that's how they'll try and do it for you, because the focus has now moved from product to the consumer. It's about what the consumer wants and about trying to meet those needs. Okay, price has moved over to cost, and it's not always necessarily about cheap. It's about what does it cost the company to convert you into a user or a proponent of their brand, and what does it cost you as a consumer to use that product? What does it cost you emotionally? What does it cost you financially? What does it cost you in terms of airspace in your head, etc., to absorb that product and make it part of your framework? Okay, place. This is especially true. It was very true then. It is truer now than it's ever been. The pandemic all turned us into creatures of convenience. So you remember, you probably had to work from home. So you have no shopping center activity, no restaurant activity, no overseas travel. Everything gets done online, at home, and what you can do from there. And it originally saw a huge spike for companies like Netflix. Netflix was smiling all the way to the bank. And then of course, companies like the airlines and shopping centers and hotel accommodation places were all dying. Now there's been this massive, huge upswing in people wanting to get out because now I can, because I'm not hemmed in by the pandemic. Okay, and now there's been, so like Netflix has lost 3 million, or they've lost so much market share, and they've lost so much off the share price, etc., etc., etc. But there is still a move towards convenience. So why should I run into KFC to go and buy takeaway if I can just order it through Uber Eats or Mr. Delivery? And it's all about convenience. And there is still a place for Sandton City because humans want experiences. So we'll go to Sandton City or Hyde Park to go shopping, because we want the experience of getting out and seeing things and smelling the fresh air. But we can integrate it by walking into Woolworths and say, hi, I ordered that dress in this size online. Yes, ma'am, here it is. We've kept it for you on the rack or in the whatever it is, here it is, and you buy it and pay for it, etc. So you get the integration of those as well. And then promotion has become communication, because promotion is one way, but communication always has feedback. Communication is two-way. It's a dialogue between the sender and the receiver back to the sender. And that's how we go. Okay, so how did it happen with this move away from the sender to the receiver and to both? Okay, so how did IMM happen? Integrated Media Management. Branding is no longer only the job of the marketing manager and the media manager. Branding is for the whole organization, but most people don't realize this. Okay, so you are no longer in control of your brand, inside out versus outside, which we're going to discuss in a minute. All you can do is steer or influence, and this is important for your assignment as well. So in the old days, when you as the content creator were in charge of creating the content, you would release the content to your readers, okay, and they would consume the content, and that would be it. These days, they won't necessarily just consume the content. They will curate the content. They will filter the content. They will forward the content. They will share the content. They'll repurpose the content, you know, and they will probably give you feedback, either positive or negative, or they'll be indifferent because there's so much content to process. Okay, but you no longer control all of those things. It becomes quite a challenge to, you know, for them to be yeah. So there is another video that I want to show you. Let me see if it's going to play, and then I want to actually discuss with you a case study which brings this to life. And if you don't end up doing the first assignment, you do the supplementary assignment. Lift is actually in the supplementary assignment. You can see NB for sub assignment, which we're going to go through. But let me first share with you. This is horribly laggy last time. Well, let me ask you the question. So Ntabi saying, do you want to watch the videos in class, or do you want to go look at those after hours, and so I just continue to go through the content with you? What's going to work best for you?
Yeah, I think I can watch the videos afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, that works better.
Okay, cool. So let me just move on then. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so you'll find that in your student outline, there is the video that we would have referred to. It's in your student outline, so you'll see it there. You can just click on it, you know, and it'll give you some more. Okay, let's have a look at this over here as a great example of outside in versus inside out. Okay, so I'm going to read the article with you because it's very interesting. I think it really puts it together. Okay, so I don't know if you ever traveled on Lyft. It's new-ish.
No, actually,
have you tried them?
No, not yet.
Okay, cool. Yeah, me either. I was going to try them a little bit later this year. But anyway, okay, so Lyft beat 25,000 suggestions as name of a new South African airline. Okay, so if you look here, the airline industry is an incredibly diverse one, and this fact also applies to the names of carriers themselves. While some simply refer to their country of origin, others are more creative. While the naming of an airline is usually a corporate decision, South Africa's latest carrier has been christened Lyft, following extensive input from the country's citizens. Many months in the making. The ongoing coronavirus pandemic has had a huge financial impact on the airline industry. Dwindling passenger numbers have seen airlines such as South African Airways call for government aid in order to survive. All in all, now seems a very challenging time to start a new airline, and yet also in South Africa, an established partnership is looking to do just that. Oops. Okay. Simple Flying reported in July 2020 that former Comair CEO and Kulula.com founder Gideon Novick was planning to launch a new South African low-cost carrier by the end of the year. Alongside Novick in this venture are Global Aviation and former Uber executive Jonathan Ayash. Okay, so 25,000 names suggested. Until now, the new airline has remained nameless. So this is back in 2020, this article. Last month, rather than keeping the decision to a fully corporate matter, Novik instead invited the South African public to submit ideas for the carrier's name. To encourage the following price for the winning name was up for grabs. A year's worth of flights on Airline X, comprising 12 return flights for 2, winner plus partner, maximum value of 2,000 Rand per person per flight, and then travel must be used in 12 months of winning. Okay, so just over a month later, the winning entry has been announced, Lift. Simple but effective, the name was chosen from over 25,000 entries. 8 South Africans have submitted this idea. In addition to a share of the prize, these individuals will also have their names inscribed on the airline's first aircraft. Okay, so Business Tech reports that according to Novik, decision was made to choose a name that was relevant to the category, unique, optimistic, and of course, easy to pronounce and remember. As one might expect, there was a huge variety among the 25,000 suggestions. Novik stated that some were thoughtful and inspiring, like Ubuntu Air and Fly Mzansi. Jay Rainey and Plainy McPlane Face were never going to fly. Well, Gravy Plane must have confused us with another airline. So that's a dig at SAA, as you can see, with Gravy Plane. All right. So planned launch route. So much like Novik's other airline, VentureKalula.com, Lift is planned to be a low-cost carrier. Given the struggles of the country's flag carrier airline, this could prove to be exactly what the South African aviation industry needs. Okay, and then they launched on the Joburg to Cape Town route. Okay, so, but can you see? It used to be inside out. So your marketing manager, your brand manager, your media manager, your media planner, they will all sit down and say, this is the message, this is the medium, this is what we're saying, this is the brand, this is the corporate colors. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to relinquish complete control of all of that to the public, but in this case, it certainly worked in terms of getting people interested in the new airline, So, but then if you have a look at the other thing, let me just close this article over here, and let's go back to the other one. Oh, did I not close the notes as well? Oh gosh. Oops, sorry, I closed the notes by accident. Let's see if I can open it again. Thanks. Okay, so Lyft responds to online use. So this is where Lyft got it right, choosing their name. And then is this where they got it wrong? Lyft responds to online users accusing airline of water wastage. Okay, so again, you can see the backlash that you have to control as the brand. Okay, so the newly launched Lyft airline landing is the King Shark International Airport. So they first launched Joburg to Cape Town. And then, of course, they wanted to do Joburg to Durban. And then, of course, they've now launched Durban to Cape Town to cover the Golden Triangle. So you have to be able to do the whole lot to make the most bucks. But you can see here social media did not let things slide and expressed their concern on water wastage after Lyft uploaded a video of its maiden flight to Durban, landing at King Shark International Airport. Okay, in the celebratory video playing Beyonce's hit song Cuff It, water cannons are used to shower Lyft's debut flight from Johannesburg to Durban as it cruises down the runway as part of a salute. Okay, so you can see how's it Durban, and then they said over there, and it's got all their tags, TikTok SA, TikTok Mzansi, FYP. Okay.
So, Rob, mind sharing your screen again? I think it stopped when you closed it. Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks for reminding me, darling. Thanks for letting me know. I sometimes forget to. Thank you. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, can you see it now?
Still loading. Yeah, I can see it now.
Okay, cool. All right, so you should be able to see this lift, the lift thingy.
Oh wait, it's got now.
Using me?
No, I can't see it anymore. I can only see. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Are you with me?
Yes, I'm still here. I can see it.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Okay, so you can see here, Lyft launched its highly requested route between Durban and Johannesburg on October 26th. This was last year now, and now offers scheduled flights between the City of Gold and Africa's Playground. Although some TikTok users congratulated Lyft on its launch, some users expressed concern over the amount of water used in celebration when some parts of Durban were still without water after the April floods. One user goes by the name of Anesh commented, Tongaat got no water and they're wasting like that. Okay, so you can see there's a bit of a backlash here. Another user, AF, shot to Lyft's defense and said, everyone complaining about the water, but drives in clean cars, go tell the car wash companies first. Okay, so Lyft responded, PS, the water used is responsibly harvested from non-drinkable grey water, no wastage on our watch. Okay, and then it goes on to say about Tongaat having no water, etc. So you can see over here, this is something you never had to deal with, 50 years ago. You would have done the whole thing, and it's tradition for an airline to to water spray, water cannon when they go into a new into a new airport. They always do it internationally. So but the thing is, you can see there's a backlash, and that's something you have to be able to manage. And so it's something you didn't need to do in the past. Okay, so how did IMM happen? And this is where I ask the question: is integrated media management the same as integrated marketing communications? Yes and no. So we're going to discuss. Philip Kotler speaks about the 5 elements of the marketing communications mix: advertising, PR, publicity, promotion, sales, direct marketing, which includes social media. Is media discussed in these? We're going to discuss those in class 2, which hopefully we'll get to before 8 o'clock. Okay, but let's have a look. This is very important. How is IMM happening? So integrated media management. As I've written here, please note the present continuous tense, is still happening. So it's still going on, it's ongoing. And this slide is very important for the assignment. So you need to be able to view and discuss and look at how your media is integrating in an environment where you are not on your own. You are very, very, very much integrated as part of a global collective. So as I said to the students, and probably also very young, you probably can't remember this all well, but in 2001, when the World Trade Center was destroyed by the planes, there was one video camera that filmed the first plane going into the first tower. Okay, there was one guy. He happened to be filming some people, and he heard this plane overhead, and he picked up his camera and shot the thing just before the plane went into the building. That was the only footage that we had. Okay, and then probably about 100 media outlets then obviously all said there's been a plane crash at the World Trade Center, and then of course by the time the second plane got there, they were all focused and fixated on the building, and of course they saw the second plane go in. Okay, so you had about 100 media outlets. If 9/11 had happened 20 years later in 2021, there would have been 100,000 pieces of footage to film. Excuse me, at least. After in New York, who had picked up their phones, they probably would have been able to do the investigation. So there would have been 1,000, cell phone pieces of information of the first plane, 10,000 of the second. It might have been easier to, piece together bits and pieces, and they managed anyway. But it's like I said to the students as well. Could you imagine what would happen if the Titanic sank in 2023? Okay, it sank 111 years ago in 1912. And okay, the news only reached London and New York. I think it was a day or two later. It wasn't immediate. Obviously, I think it took a day to reach New York, because they were obviously sailing to New York where all the survivors went, and then sort of an extra day to get to London. But it wasn't instantaneous, and they did have, telegraph and that kind of thing in those days, and Morse code and telegrams, but it wasn't like today. If it had been today, first of all, you wouldn't have lost all those passengers, because they would have been able to get onto rubber dinghies and that kind of thing. But because the water was so cold, there would still probably have been people who had died. But you can imagine 1,000 passengers filming all the footage, okay, and how that would have changed the total landscape. You might say, well, what's this got to do with branding? Well, it would have been very, very bad for the brand that owned the Titanic, the Cunard Line. As Leonardo DiCaprio, I don't know if you've seen Titanic, said there, I intend to write a very strongly worded letter to the White Star Line, which I think was a subdivision of Cunard Line, for the fact that this, the ship is now sunk, it has sunk into the water. So you can imagine, how that would affect the brand these days, all of these things. So that is the power of the media today, and the responsibility that you have to integrate and manage that media more than your predecessors. Okay, so the pestle driver, some people say pest, some people say pesty, I like pestle. So physical, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental factors, drivers, that affect the macro environment strategy and, affect the environment, the world in which you function as a media manager. Okay, so let's have a look at some of these. Okay, political, the local 2024 elections. These are local. So you've got local trends and global trends. The 2024 elections. What is the ANC going to do about its shrinking market share? And who's going to replace it? Are we going to see fragmentation of parties like have seen in the past? Are we going to see a slight rise of the EFF, a slight rise of the DA, and then a bit of Action SA, a bit of the Patriotic Alliance, etc., etc., etc. Who knows? We really don't know. But how does that affect the media strategy for? And this is the question in your assignment. You have been hired by the ANC to put together a strategy for them, a media strategy, to convince people to go to the polls and vote for them. So how would that influence it? Then on a global scale, I've written here East versus West and global North versus global South. So East versus West has been as old as the hills. You have, the Western media narrative and the hegemonic domination of the United States, and also by extension Europe, versus Russia, versus China, and their desire to not be dominated by Western media, or to, be dominated by Western values. China, it has a shoddy human rights record, but that's according to Western values. They might say, well, we don't want to, help the people in Tibet. Tibet is a de facto part of China, so get over it. As well, if you look at the East, Afghanistan, you've got women who are not allowed to go to university anymore, not allowed to go to school, not allowed to work. How do you feel about that as a woman who is promoting, the empowerment in terms of Africa and the diaspora, and does the world care? And they do. I think they do. I certainly do. But, does the Taliban care? I don't know. Maybe some of them do. I'm not sure. And then, of course, you have the global North versus the global South, where the global South is saying, listen, you guys have burned your coal. You guys have, done your nuclear power stations. Why do we now have to be punished for going green? Because we have abundant coal and we don't have the money to go green. Okay, we have an electricity crisis in South Africa. Yeah. Why are we being punished? And why are we being punished for being poor? And why are we being punished for not being white? If you're in the global South. So that is something, that you have to consider. And how does that affect your ability to manage media? Okay, then you look at economic. So the cost of living crisis all around the world. And these are just some ideas. You can populate this list a lot. You could really go through this a lot. And there's something that you need to understand as you are putting together your, your strategy, and deciding how you're going to tackle these issues in your media and in your messaging. Okay, and then Eskom, is Eskom a political thing? Let's say, for example, Eskom contacted you tomorrow and said, listen, we've got a great opportunity for you. You can still work for the company that you're working for and send your stuff to London. But as a side hustle, we want you to create a narrative. We're turning 100 in 2023. We want you to create a narrative and agenda about how fabulous Eskom is. And we don't want it to be blatant advertising in media. We want you to do blog posts on the difficulty in what would you do? How would you tackle something that is that incendiary, that explosive? What would you do? You get what I'm saying?
Are you posing that to me now?
Yeah, why not? I don't know to just be, me speaking the whole time. I'd love to hear your thoughts because, you're working in industry. So I'd love to know what you think.
Okay. Can you just give me that question in a nutshell, and then I'll give it a go.
Sure, absolutely. So we're talking about political, economic, social, technological, legal, environmental drivers that affect the environment in which companies or brands exist. Okay, and what I'm saying to you is from an economic perspective, or possibly a political perspective, if tomorrow Eskom came to you and said to you, Nthabi Singh, keep your day job, we want you to do a side hustle for us and we'll pay you lots of money. We want you to create an agenda, but using blogs, using publicity, not using full-out advertising. I want you to create an agenda where you are convincing people that Eskom is actually a good brand, it's a cool brand, and actually it's not such a bad company. What would you do? How would you do that?
Sure. I would first of all have to have a long talk with Eskom to find out how they plan to do that. You know, so that in the message that I will be conveying on whatever platform that may be, I have, you know, the full information and backup from Eskom. So I'd have to know their strategy first of all, on what they're planning to do to sort of fix the current situation, and how they are planning to sustain, you know, power supply in future. And from there, then I can sort of, I guess, back them up as well, because it's, I don't know, as a journalist, you have to be ethical as well in with what you write.
Yes.
So I wouldn't just have them send me a press release or a document of how great they are. There has to be some sort of backup in terms of like the strategy that they have in, you know, towards, you know, coming up with solutions for what's going on right now.
Right.
And then, yeah, then different platforms, maybe social media, blogs, visibility is key. So a lot, I guess I would check which media platforms are more effective for that kind of messaging as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just a follow-up question. How would you deal with the obvious backlash that you're going to get? What would you do? Because you know you're going to get a backlash. They're going to say, oh, please, this is so fake.
Yeah, you know, these are actually really difficult because firstly, with the ANC one, I don't see the need for us to try and help the ANC out. The ANC must go, but then who comes into power, which is the other conundrum, you know? And then, so with Eskom, obviously there's going to be a lot of back because people are angry. We're all angry. It's disrupting our lives. So I think with that, I could set up like a customer service center where we have people that are trained to respond positively to any backlash that there may be. Yeah.
Okay. You know what? You thank you. That is, I think that's an excellent answer. And then make sure that they answer their phones. People phone and say yes. You know, so that's important. You know what? The reason why I really want students to really think, and I want students to be able to. I mean, you know, I don't. This is an apolitical, a-religious class, so I'm not taking a stance at all. I'm not. I'm not setting an agenda. You know, I mean, for example, I'll let you know, I'm opposed to the war in Ukraine. You know, I think that Russia has no business invading a next door neighbor who wants to turn to Europe. You know, but that's just my opinion. Okay. I can also say to you that, you know, in terms of, you know, the ANC, you're exactly the kind of person that I would want to try and convince, because you are the emerged black middle class, or you are the, you know, the forgive me for the terminology, and it's not meant to be disparaging, the Model C person who doesn't believe, you know, the whole idea that you need to be quote unquote loyal to the ANC because they liberated the country from apartheid. You don't believe that. You know what I mean? So how do I because remember, you make up a substantial portion of the population. You're a big percentage of the population. How do I convince somebody like you to go and vote for the ANC? That's why they're in so much trouble. And maybe they're not. Maybe people still go vote for them anyway, but they seem to be in trouble. If you look at how much market share they've lost over the last 20 years, you know. So the reason why I'm doing it is because I really want you to think, look, it probably won't succeed anyway. I'm not asking you to create a campaign that's going to succeed. I'm asking you to go and think about what you would do and the kind of messaging that you'd put in place to try and convince people. You know, when we go through the assignment next week, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's designed to be provocative, and it's designed to really get you thinking, so that you can put your thinking cap on. It'll stretch your brain, you know. And it's none of the case studies, you know, or the questions are necessarily easy. They really and truly, because if somebody came to you and asked you for a solution, you need to be able to offer them one that's at least plausible, so that you can get paid, you know, so that you and do it with a good heart and say, listen, I earned this money, I deserve to get paid, because even though the campaign wasn't necessarily successful, I put my heart and soul and my back into it, and it was an honest, authentic campaign, you know. So that is but thank you. I appreciate your inputs, and I think it's a good answer, you know. And I think you know it's a lot of thought. But see, that's the problem. That's the problem, and that leads me to something else I want to say to you later. The problem is that people will turn to media and expect that the media manager or the media person will be able to fix it with one press release or one blog post or one, you know, TikTok video. And we both know it doesn't work that way. You know, people don't understand that. Okay, so then moving on to the next one, social. So we have the hashtag #MeToo movement. Okay, so Harvey Weinstein and all the women that he accosted and, you know, made sexual advances towards, and now the big backlash, and Jeffrey Epstein and, you know, Kevin Spacey and so on and so forth. Black Lives Matter. You know, what with the effect of it's George Floyd, hey, George Floyd, yes. You know, the cop standing on his neck, him dying, you know, etc. And this huge outrage about how, you know, Black people are still, you know, 50, 60, 70 years after segregation has ended, are still fighting, you know, to how does that affect your ability to create messaging for, you know, a Trump government? Or, you know, how would you use that as Kamala Harris to position yourself to become the next president, the first president, first female president of color, you know, those sort of things. And then, of course, like the LGBTQIA plus movement. So, I mean, on, what was it, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, Beyonce gets up when she wins her 32nd Grammy, which is makes her the record holder now, you know, and she gets up and says, I want to thank the queer community for creating this category that has allowed me now to become, you know, this pioneer of history. And she thanked them, you know what I mean? And she said, thank you to Jay-Z, and thank you to my children, and thank you to my family, etc. But how does that affect, you know, the way we perceive things, the way we do things? How does Beyonce and Jay-Z endorsing a Joe Biden affect people's ability to vote for them? You know, are you going to alienate the conservative rights, the conservative, not necessarily always Christian, but conservative Southern, a lot of them Southern, not all of them. Some of them are the people in Connecticut and Rhode Island and, you know, Massachusetts who voted for, and California and New York who voted for, you know, Donald Trump. But how does that, so these are the contexts in which you see these things. Technological TikTok. TikTok is not an American brand, it's Chinese.
Yeah.
So, you know, so how does that affect the American ability to control media, to create a hegemony, an American-styled agenda-setting dominance of media messages? Like I said, I'm opposed to the war in Ukraine because I think that, you know, they have the right to self-determination. If they want to go to Europe, then that's their prerogative. Russia feels differently. They're like, no, it should be a Russian, pro-Russian state. So we will invade them until they, you know, come to the party. You know, so I'm not a, you know, I'm not Ukrainian and I'm not Russian, so it's not really, I just have an opinion. Same thing as well with, you know, Israel and Palestine. Yeah. I believe in a two-state solution. I'm very pro-Israel. You know, I would go so far as to say that I think Israel's wonderful, but I'm very much in favor of a two-state solution. Palestine has a right to exist. Palestine has a right to, you know, but the thing is, when you have 700,000 Jewish migrants, you know, who've moved into the West Bank, you know, to almost colonize it, you know, and then if you then try and remove them, first of all, you'll never get voted into power. I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu, if he swings to the left, and says, guys, we need to remove you and excise you from the West Bank, he'll lose the election. They'll vote him out of power, because there are some people in Israel who say the Bible says that from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, that is the land of Israel as proclaimed by God. How do you create a message and manage the media to try and convince people that's not the case, or to convince the Arabs and the Palestinians living in the West Bank that, listen, you're now going to be annexed by Israel and you're all going to become Israeli? It's explosive. It's crazy. It's insane. So, and then legal. Is Putin a war criminal? According to the International Court of Justice, he may be. Was it right for Facebook to spy on its customers? Some people would say no. It's it's evil. Okay, and then environmental. So palm oil is a key ingredient in Nutella. We all like Nutella. Palm oil comes from palm trees, which grow abundantly in the tropics. They have removed tens of thousands of hectares of tropical rainforest in Indonesia to plant palm trees, to harvest palm oil for Nutella, so we can all have our Nutella fix. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for the orangutans. It's bad for, and you can just imagine, so how do you defend the Indonesian government? It says, listen, we need money to be able to develop the country. We need to be able to, it's such a difficult situation. And this is the context in which you are managing your media. So how is it happening and why did it all happen? Okay, but this is important. The more things change, the more they stay the same. This is the next slide over here. Okay, so you might say, but do you know what this triangular thing is? Do you recognize it at all?
Yes, I do recognize it.
Okay.
It is, what do you call it again? Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Correct. There we go. Okay, so there we go. Correct. Okay, so the more things change, the more they stay the same. Did humans communicate 10,000 years ago? What do you say?
Yes, they did.
Okay, how? How did they communicate 10,000 years ago?
I'm not sure, 100% sure, but maybe through sign language, maybe through drawings. Yeah.
100% correct. Yes, they sign language, nonverbal cues, the beginning stages of language, whatever,
Yeah.
Drawings, cave drawings, smoke signals, embraces.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Okay, so let's have a look at the because even though the way we communicate may have changed, now we use smartphones and tablets and devices and whatever it is. The fact that we communicate has not changed. We just communicate in a different way, but we still communicate. So things have changed, but they've also stayed the same. Let's go through the hierarchy at the bottom. Physiological needs. However old you believe humanity is, if you are possibly a Christian, then you would say humanity is only 6,000 years old because God founded the world 6,000 years ago. If you believe that the world is older than 10,000, maybe 40,000 years of human existence, after the dinosaurs, the Earth is 2 billion years old. So actually, we've been around for 1 billion years already. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't really have a very strong opinion about when we came about, but I do know that we still then needed and still today have physiological needs. We all need food. We all need water. We all need warmth. We all need rest. Moving up a rung, we all need safety and security. We need to feel safe and secure. Okay, that's why if you look in South Africa, security industry is a multi-billion rand industry because we all need people to protect us from, and if you look at why, you might say, well, what is the driver that caused this huge spike in crime in South Africa? Well, it's a disparity in distribution of resources. You have the haves and you have the have-nots, and nowhere is it more polarized than in South Africa, where you have people who have the middle class and upper class and the working class all have money, and then you have people who live in abject poverty who don't, and they're angry because they don't have food in their stomach. Or you could say, oh, Rob, that's all rubbish. He's just too lazy to go get a job. I don't know. I'm not here to parasocial commentary, but certainly we all need to feel safe and secure. Okay, then belongingness and love needs, intimate relationships, friends. So if you just go ask your parents or your grandparents, listen, how did you guys, go on dates and meet people in the old days? They'll say, well, we went to a party, or you wrote each other like pen pals, or somebody introduced you to somebody. Today it's Tinder or whatever, you're swiping right and swiping left or whatever it is, that kind of thing, and deciding but the fact that we all need to have intimate relationships, and friends, we still need to, how do you become friends with somebody? You communicate with them and see if you have stuff in common or that you like about each other. That's communication. You know what I mean? Esteem needs, or prestige, feelings of accomplishment, and then of course self-actualization. Well, you and I both know, because we're both headed for degrees, already have degrees, that or tertiary qualifications. We want to achieve the very best we can in life, so we know that our lives mattered, that we did the best with the gift that we were given, and said, I did something with my life. I mean, so, and that has never changed. So as much as the media landscape has changed, as much as media has changed, it also hasn't, because people are still, doing the same things that they did thousands and thousands of years ago. Okay, so that's something to consider and keep in mind. Okay, so for the purpose of this course, what is marketing? Let's quickly discuss this, and then we're finishing up with this module, but then we're going to start the other one, so I can just get as much done as possible before you start load shedding. What is marketing? To create a product or service or idea that people want or need. Let me ask you the question, what is the difference between want and need? What would you say?
So a want is maybe something like a luxury, something that you just want to have, and a need is something that you can't live without.
Good. Okay, so that's exactly right. So I say it like this: I need a pair of shoes to protect my feet from damage when I'm walking, but I don't need a pair of Reeboks or a pair of Nikes. I could any old tacky. I could get a pair of 100-rand ones from Pep. That will also protect my feet. But I want a pair of Nike, maybe because I think that it's a better quality, it'll cushion my foot better. Maybe it's for status or prestige, and maybe it's just because I look good in it and because it looks cool. Okay, so marketing is about creating a product, service, or idea that people want or need, and then telling them that you have it. Okay, so your job, as in terms of your thing, is to explain, and in your case, it's probably an idea. Okay, so stories from Africa, inspiring stories from Africa, connecting Africa to its people, the people who live in Europe. Okay, and why do they need it? Because you can still have roots and have wings. So you can have roots, be anchored to where you come from, and still have wings and fly. You know what I mean? So you can do both. And how do you connect those two and say to people, think about what you're doing by giving back to people who are here? I mean, inspiring them to also maybe go and work in Europe, or work in Europe and then come back, or whatever it is. Sending money home so that you can help the people who are here to also be better educated, be better fed, be better taken care of in terms of medical needs or clothing or cell phone communication or whatever. Okay, and then Kotler's definition of marketing, just moving on from that, is the management of profitable customer relationships. So when we create a product or service or idea that people want or need, and we tell them that we have it, so much so that they believe that it is important because it meets their need, then they remain your customer, which means that it becomes profitable because they continue to buy from you. Okay, so for the purpose of this course, also, what is branding? Branding is the creation of sustainable competitive advantage, which two theorists called Gosson and Gresham came up with. Okay, and when you create a product or service that people continue to use and buy, okay, that is when you have this sustainable competitive advantage. You continue to be competitive. You continue to have an advantage over your competitors because it's sustainable. Because people, that's why, just to let you know, price is not necessarily a sustainable competitive advantage. Because people can always undercut you, or they can as much as possible. Okay, so if you look at Lyft, for example, at the airline, so because of the demise of SAA, we still have 5 airlines because Carmen's gone, Kalula's gone, Mango's gone, but we still got SAA, Lyft, Link, CMA, and
Fly safely.
Fly Safely. There we go. Yes, that's it. There we go.
Yeah.
I've done all the time. Thank you for reminding me. So you can see, but Fly Safely is their brand proposition. The unique brand proposition is price. Airlink is connectivity, because they're saying, listen, nobody flies to Hoedspruit, nobody flies to Sishen, nobody flies to Pretoria from Cape Town, nobody flies to Richards Bay. We do, but you got to pay a premium for it because nobody else flies there. Doing other small niches like Margate and little airports that nobody else services. XA is barely hanging on with government support, and then Lyft is now just getting into the market, and they're doing the Golden Triangle, which is Joburg, Cape Town, Durban. That's what they're doing. So you can see, and how would you then create messages, media messages, and put them in media for these people? Okay, so why is all of this important? Why is a comprehensive definition of marketing the management of profitable customer relationships for the creation of sustainable competitive advantage? Well, here's why. Okay, if you successfully manage a customer relationship so that they continue to make use of a product or service idea, then you have a sustainable competitive advantage, branding offering that continues to make money. This is why some brands succeed while others fail. So do you remember from 12 years ago, I don't know if you ever did, maybe you were still too young, do you remember the BlackBerry craze back in
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yes, I was a part of it.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so you did so but nowadays, if it's not a Samsung and it's not an Apple, then it doesn't exist. I mean, even Nokia is gone. Why? How is it that they have not maintained those stellar customer relationships?
Yeah, I think with Samsung and Apple, it's about the user experience.
There we go. UX has become very big. UX, UD, user experience, user development. Correct. Absolutely. And offering you features that, it looks cool. It's nicely put together. It has all the apps that you need. It has all the mod cons. It has long battery life, etc., etc., etc. Whereas none of the other products seem to have kept up with those innovations. And there again as well, you've got this big disparity. Although South Korea, which is where Samsung is based, is very pro-American. It is again East versus West, because South Korea versus the US, because obviously Apple is US based. Okay, but all right. So then, for the purpose of this course, why is all of this so important? Okay, when you finish your degree and start working as you are busy working, people will not be concerned with the minutiae of your qualification. They will ask one question: how can this person that I'm going to hire, or how can this company that I'm going to hire, be the solution to my problem? And in most cases, their problem will be connecting their solution to someone else's problem. Okay, so what I wanted to say to you is, what do you think? Can you give me an example, a brand of where you would be the solution to their problem, because you provide a solution to their problem that provides a solution to the company that they're serving's problem?
Sure, that's a layered question. So what solution would I give to a company that's trying to solve somebody else's problem?
Yes. So let's look at a practical example. Okay. What solution does ShopRite offer to people?
Lower prices.
Okay. What else?
ShopRite. Oh, does this include Checkers? It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. ShopRite, Checkers. Yeah, absolutely. Or any retailer.
Yeah. So they also have the online shopping. What's it called again?
6060. The 6060 app. Okay, cool. Good.
The 6060 app, and then they have the in-store loyalty program.
Yes, there's the smart savings card. Good. Yes, absolutely. Okay, but think about it as those are all very good points, and those are all very relevant points. Let me ask you a question. Do you have the time to grow potatoes in your garden, if you even have a garden?
No.
Tomatoes?
No.
Do you have time to go down the road to the local farmer and ask him for a pail of milk?
No.
Do you have time to go down and churn the milk into butter?
No.
Do you want to go and slaughter a chicken so that you can have chicken a la king for dinner tonight?
Not at all.
Absolutely. I'm definitely not of that ilk either. Okay, so what does ShopRite do? It brings together under one roof all the things that you would need to live. Yeah. That is the solution to the problem. Okay, now you might say, well, Rob, they don't need me. Of course they do. Okay, they put together a weekly brochure where they say low prices, this is what's on special this week. Who designs that brochure?
The marketing team.
Exactly. And then they put it together and they use a media plan or a media manager to then advertise it. They print the newspaper, they stick it into newspapers, they put the advert on TV, they do the advert on radio.
Yeah.
Can you see the value that you'd be offering? So you go and then say, listen, guys, my solution to your ShopRite checkers is I will make sure that you never, ever have to worry about any pamphlet going into the newspaper ever. Your TV adverts will always be on time and they'll be correct. And your radio advertising, I will be able to get you 20% extra value because I know people in the radio industry, and they say, oh, you're hired. So
this is as a media planner, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Oh, in your case, for example, okay, what the company that you work for is saying is, okay, Nthabi Singh, you will take content that we get from our writers, you will edit it, you will get rid of the grammar errors, the spelling errors, you'll get rid of the content that's irrelevant, that's superfluous, that's boring. Okay, and then you will put it together, and you will also brief the writer and say, listen, we need an article on, how people from Africa are coping with the bloody cold weather in the UK, especially now with the cost of living crisis. Okay, and to get someone to write an article about, maybe like a fun article on, I'm busy freezing my bum off here, but actually the benefits of riding on the underground, and the pounds outweigh the thing is I can bring my pounds back to SA and spend them on, a fish platter at the V&A waterfront in Cape Town. Like that. Do you know what I mean? So that's the benefit that you offer to your company. Can you see? And the point I'm trying to make is this over here. Why is this so important? If you remember the value that you offer to your company and the value that the company offers to their company, okay, you will always have a job. And if you remember that and you do it for an increasingly large number of people, you'll become wealthy. So when you start your company offering marketing and communications and content solutions to a company, and you do it to a greater extent and, with aplomb and with flair and with creativity, people will pay you for that. So and that is my job. My job is to show you how your BBA degree and this specific subject can help to prepare you more for industry than you're already prepared because you're already in industry. Do you get what I'm saying? Cool. I hope that makes sense.
That makes sense, yes.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. So marketing, communications, and branding as a summary are absolutely essential elements in the creation of successful integrated media management. You are ready and must continue to become a holistic, big picture thinker, but people will not understand this and they will resist you because they don't understand the importance of, the big picture. They will just, they don't understand because they're not in the marketing field, or not in the media field. Okay, so do it anyway in the interest of your client. Okay, so our next gripping installment will now move into more grassroots detail about integrated media management and begin to make reference to your textbook, Kung. Now, I'm just wondering, do you want to finish a few minutes early so you can prepare yourself for your 2-hour load shedding, or do you want to continue? What's going to work for you?
I think we can finish early if you're okay with that.
No problem. That's absolutely fine. That's cool. Okay, cool. How was this lesson for you? Do you feel like you learned something?
Yeah, I actually, in 2021, I had registered for IMM, and when I started doing it, I was a bit confused. I did defer it though because I had taken on a lot of subjects. So I understand it a bit better now, much better.
Okay, that's cool. Well, if you have any questions or queries, you have my email address on your student outline. And you're welcome to ask me anytime, and I will gladly assist you. My job, as I said, is to make your job, easier so that you can pass this course and finish your degree.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
It's a huge pleasure. So you have a good evening. Thank you for your time and your attention, and I will see you next week.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks, Nthabi Singh. Take care.
Yes, bye.
Thanks. Bye.